Thank you. Please remain on the line. Hold for acceptance. Hello, this is a prepaid collect. Charges for your call have been accepted.
I was thinking about what you told me yesterday. Is there a way that you could put it in a letter?
I thought about that, but then, no, because it would, regardless, I think the reason that they were wanting me to say it now is because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so everything's shut down, and that gives you 2 prominent days because everybody is pretty much gone the rest of the week. So nobody will be back until Monday.
I know, but the calls are recorded. They can listen to them anytime they want to.
Yeah, but I was specifically told nobody would be back until Monday.
Not to what?
I was told nobody would be back until Monday.
Yeah, but,
Well, if I write it in a letter, I would only hope that who I give it to could just stick it in,
Well,
you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but I don't know. What would it benefit me knowing?
Well, to me, it was a lot of answered prayers. That's for sure.
Well, can you... So tell me what you can. If you tell me what you want to, then I guess.
Well, pretty much I was shackled, I can tell you that. And when I was sitting in the office with them, they told me to not ask any questions because they couldn't answer any of my questions. They said that it was their job to not listen to the newspapers or social media or things of that nature because they feel that the opinions are what get to people. And then they said that they can't be bought, nor can they be persuaded. And they said with that in mind, they said when I arrived on the 14th, I actually arrived late. I was supposed to be here earlier on the 14th. But apparently court in New Boston got behind, so that's why I got here so late. So remember me calling you really late that night?
Yeah,
I guess
we were already in. Because remember, we had gone to Oklahoma to see you. I'd made arrangements with that investigator to see you there, and the Texas Rangers got to you before we could get to you.
Okay, well, then, that kind of makes sense because the individual told me that they were trying to get to me early that day because arrangements had been made, but they had thought that they were too late because they got to me late. Well, I was supposed to go to court here because a specific judge by the name of had arrangements made with the DA that I was to be placed under a no bond. Well, because I got here late, I wasn't able to go to court on the 14th. So on the 15th, I was the 21st docket. And apparently some individuals had tried to arrange for me to be placed as a no bond. Well, couldn't go to court on the 15th. It was a different judge. That judge made arrangements for Jefferson to come get me out of my cell, put me as the first docket. She went over everything with me, and they placed me on a bond. They gave me a bond, just like any other inmate. And so then they put me back in my cell. Well, of course, when the DA and them caught word that I had been placed on a bond, they had called and made arrangements with the bondsmen and stuff in Bowie County, I guess, to not, aid in helping me get released or anything of that nature. And then they were like, so do you understand that? And I said, yes, I understand. And the individual said, bondsmen are throughout the state of Texas. There are also bondsmen in Arkansas that can aid people in Texas. You can use any bondsman throughout the state. You can use one in El Paso if they work a deal with you. Do you understand that? And I said, yes. And then they said, okay, with you understanding that, they asked me, they said, have you ever played Monopoly? And, of course, Mom, I was in chains, and you know how you notice somebody and you know them, but you don't know them? Does that make sense? Like, you know how you're kind of like, I know this person. Why can I not think of who they are? Okay, that's who this person was. And, of course, they're asking me these questions, and then they've already told me that I can't ask questions, so, things weren't making any sense to me. But anyways, they asked me if I've ever played the game Monopoly. I said yes. And they flopped a notepad and a pen down, and they said, when I say key note, you jot this down. So this is the piece of paper that I have. They said, key note, you put up money or items, but in reality you really aren't. These things can merely be seen as collateral. And I said, do you understand? And I said, yes. And they said collateral as in deeds. Deeds as in like land, ownership of items, titles of things you may have. It really doesn't matter to a bondsman. And then they said keynote. They just have to know things have unbeknown, which I didn't know how to spell. I just spelled it UNDUNKNOWN, value, or so they are told it does. And so I wrote that down. And the individual in front of me said, that way you're not having to spend substantial amounts of cash. And so I wrote that down. And they were like, do you understand that? And I said, yes. And they were like, when you contact a bondsman, they said key, this is key. And so I wrote this down. They said, tell each bondsman a prominent, and they did quotation with their fingers. A prominent individual made a list of bondsmen to contact, and they, as in the bondsman you're contacting, in quotation with their fingers, were at the top of the list. You were told if they couldn't help you, they could put a favor in with someone who possibly could. And the individual told me that the prominent, all of these key factors, Kathy and Shauna would be able to work this out. They used you and Grandma's name. And they used Grandma's name first. Kathy and Shauna would know to work, what all of this could work out, what all of this meant. But anyways, listen, then the individual was like, so you have all that written down? I said, yes. And they said, I'm going to go over your bond out requirements. And I said, okay. And they told me to write them down, and which I did. They said, weekly parole visits. You will be required on a specific day and time to report in weekly. So I wrote that down. I'm required to wear a GPS satellite location tracking collar on my ankle. I'm prohibited to the consumption of drugs or alcohol, which there is testing weekly at the parole visit. I'm not allowed to leave the state of Texas. And then depending on if my parole visits are in because my state is Arkansas and Texas, the individual said that it may be Texas or Arkansas that, I can't leave. and I'm prohibited to go within 100 yards of a public school. And the individual said, do you understand what your bond out requirements are? And I went to say something, and they were like, it's a yes or no question. Do you understand what your bond out requirements are? And I said, yes. And they said, okay, your final bond out requirement is when you are told your date and time to report to court, do you understand that you are to report to court at that date and time? And I said, absolutely, I understand that. And they were like, okay, now we're returning to our monopoly. That stuff will be returned to you as long as you follow your bond out requirements and your bond out requirement and the additional requirement that I read to you. Does that make sense?
So did they give you the bond person?
Do what?
Did they give you any names of the bond people?
They gave me one to start with. They said, start with this one. A Stephen in Batesville, Arkansas.
Okay, I don't have anything to write with out here, so you're going to have to give me that tomorrow.
Okay, but this is what's even weirder, Mom. Okay, so they said to start with this guy. And also, when we got done, the individual said, surprisingly, me being in the position I am, my own child received a capital murder charge because she was addicted to dope and accidentally killed 3 children in a wreck. And she was like, she said, I've been through this. You would have not been given the bond if we literally thought you were just a bad person. We just want you to know that. And I just said, thank you. And she said, and they said, that's it. You can leave. And they stood me up, and I was walking out, and the individual said, Miss Parker. And I turned around, and they said, tell Charlotte and Mark they're welcome. I wasn't able to help them with Blaze, but I hope that this helps Kathy, Shauna, and them both. So,
I don't, so this individual's daughter had an accident that killed 3 girls?
Yeah, that killed, I guess, 3 kids on the state highway a long time ago. And I guess she received a capital murder charge. But the individual was telling me that she gave me like in which I didn't understand any of it. She gave me an example when she was going over the monopoly deal. She said, for instance, a deed. She was like, a 40-acre deed, can be worth, she said, like $30,000. She said we had to, she said her and her mother got just a piece of paper, and what they did is they put together everything that was on that piece of property to show what the value was to be, this substantial amount of money. I can't remember what exactly she said. And then they got it, they took it to their bank friend and got it, they got it,
right.
No, not appraised. No, not appraised. They got it where, kind of like you go to the courthouse and somebody, notarized. They got it notarized, and that's what they turned in with their deed. And pretty much that's what they put up, I guess, when they got her, as in their monopoly. I don't know. The way that I was understanding it is they put it up as like collateral, and as long as when they let her daughter, I guess they let the individual's daughter out, and she did get to come out. I think the lady said she got like 4 or 5 months out. But when they, told her to go to court, she was out during the court stuff, and then she got her sentence, and of course, went away for once they sentenced her. But she did get 4 or 5 months out. But they gave her back those whatever her collateral, her monopoly, what they call monopoly money. They gave that back to her because they followed the whatever. They followed her requirements, and she showed up and all of that. So, I mean, I didn't know if that's what she meant by asking me if I understood them, if, it was something that I could do. I thought I was going to be released right then the way that she was acting, but that wasn't the case. So,
yeah. So,
but I guess you need to...
I guess I'll contact Charlotte. Obviously, this individual knows her and tried to help her with Blaze.
Yeah, because that was the last thing she said. Tell Charlotte and Mark they're welcome. I was unable to help with Blaze, so hopefully this helps Kathy, Shauna, and them both, was the last words that this individual said to me. I'll call y'all tomorrow, Mom. That way you can get this person's number, because she did, the individual said that, you got a time frame, so.
Do you have her number?
Who?
Do you have the number? You said, so I have time to, what did you say? You'll talk to me tomorrow so I can get her number?
I'll give you, so I can give you that guy's name and stuff of where to start. That's where she said to start, and all this other stuff. That way,
okay. Okay.
But she said she talked to, she spoke with somebody from y'all's side of the family that she knows. So, I don't.
This call will be terminated in 1 minute.
The individual was very blunt with me, so, I didn't get details.
Okay. Well, nobody's contacted my side of the family.
Well, that you know,
that
you know of, I guess.
I'm in contact with everybody, and nobody has said anything about that. So anyway, you got 30 seconds, love.
All right.
We eat tomorrow at noon, so if you want to call at noon.
I'll try. I love y'all.
All right, love you too. Bye-bye.
All right, love you, bye.